Diem and his brother Nhu were praying in a church. Their country rejected them, their people hated them, and more importantly, the military. While praying, they were captured by multiple soldiers, suddenly surrounding the church. The brothers were led into a vehicle. While Nhu was complaining about the condition of the vehicle to the soldier, then an audible shout rang out, leading to the brothers' unglamorous death in the back bed of a vehicle. To no one's surprise, his fate had long been sealed. Ngo Dinh Diem, many things could be said about him. He was a complicated man, first president of South Vietnam, implementing a range of policies that were highly influential but also deeply controversial. He was deeply Catholic, almost to a fault. Diem's vision of being a crusader, cleansing Vietnam of Buddhism, which virtually alienated everyone. His uncompromising beliefs in government style would ultimately lead to his downfall. Diem's grip on swing was precarious from the very start. Many doubted his capability, seeing Diem is unqualified to rule such a fractured nation. Following his contested rise in 1955, even after quelling opponents during the Sec crisis, where the country was divided into semi-militia groups, questions about his leadership linger. Despite these concerns, the United States pledged unconditional support to South Vietnam as a counterbalance to the communist North Vietnam, viewing Diem as a necessary, albeit a flawed ally. Diem would take full advantage of this opportunity. As soon as Diem was able to consolidate his power and remove his enemies, Diem could unleash his pet project. Being a crusader of the 20th century, maybe it's naivety or wishful thinking, Diem would launch a crusade into Vietnam at the cost of everyone. At the helm of the entire country, Diem would first give beneficial treatment to the Catholics, giving Catholics role in government, military and administrative positions. Many of his closest advisors, including his powerful brothers, were Catholic. To illustrate my point, he even said,
"Put your Catholic officers in sensitive places. They can be trusted."
The Buddhists were discriminated, no funding were given to them, and were looked down upon. The crisis escalated in May 1963 when the government banned the Buddhist flag during celebration of Vesak, Buddha's birthday, in the city of Hue. This was seen as a religious discrimination because Catholics have been allowed to display their flags on religious holidays without restrictions. With the self-immolation of Thinh Hoàng Thuc to add fuel to the fire, Madame Nhu said,
"Let them burn and we shall clap our hands."
Riots broke throughout the country. Since 1956, tensions in Vietnam have been steadily escalating, culminating in full-scale religious conflict. 80,000 people were executed, and up to 500,000 were arrested during the ensuing turmoil. Washington too was deeply divided. Many Catholics, unwavering in their support of Diem, backed his harsh actions against Buddhists. Meanwhile, a growing majority within the US government have been increasingly critical of Diem's regime, beginning to plan for his potential replacement as the situation spiraled out of control. The world attention became fixated on Vietnam. Diem, now more than ever, lacked a capacity for compromise. Like his brothers, he had little compassion. His ambassador in Washington, before resigning from his office in protest, summed up Diem and his brothers.
They are very much like medieval inquisitors who were so convinced of their righteousness that they would burn people for their own sake and for the sake of mankind to save them from error and sin.
And South Vietnam observer at the United Nations also resigned in protest. To add insult to injury, they were parents to Madame Nhu. Meanwhile, Diem and his brothers, as confident in the righteousness of their actions as ever, continued to act if nothing had happened, ignoring the obvious signs. Soon afterwards, the plotters set their plans in motion. General Sung Ban Min, or Big Min, and his fellow coup leaders initiate the military coup. The Army of Republic of Vietnam begins seizing key positions in Saigon, including military headquarters and radio station. Diem is informed that a coup is underway. General Big Min and Trần Quang Dong led a coup against President Diem, having secretly allied with General Dinh, who commanded the forces around Saigon. Diem's brother, Nhu, unaware of Din's betrayal, attempted a counter-coup called Operation Bravo, which aimed to seize a fake rebellion. However, Din used this opportunity to transfer control of key troops and encircle the capital, preventing loyalist forces from defending Yim, with the rebels quickly capturing key installations. After an assault by Colonel Nguyen Van Thieu, the President Palace fell by dawn. At 6 o'clock, just before dawn, senior officers scattered at the Joint General Staff headquarters to decide the fate of President Yim and inspire Nhu. While most officers, including General Bigman, favored allowing Yim an honorable retirement and exile, one officer emphasized the need for a thorough removal, saying, "To kill the weeds, you must pull up the roots." Nevertheless, the generals prioritized an orderly transition to gain international recognition. At 7 o'clock, after surrendering in the palace, Lodge and Yim spoke for the last time. The US ambassador put him on hold, and upon his return, the ambassador offered Yim and Nhu asylum, but he could not arrange transportation to the Philippines until the following day, contradicting his earlier offer when he urged Yim not to resist the coup. Then volunteered to personally escort the brothers to safety, preventing the generals from killing them, but Lodge declined, saying, "We can't get that involved." At 8 o'clock, General Bigman, in his full military uniform, went to Siloam Palace to oversee the arrest of Yim and Nhu. While an armored vehicle and jeep were dispatched to transport them to army headquarters to an official surrender, plans were made for a ceremonial hand of power to Min and Vice President Nguyen Ngoc Tho, with Yim requesting exile to a televised event, but the brothers were to be held at army headquarters while awaiting deportation. Big Min instead arrived to find an empty palace, leaving Big Min mortified when he realized they had escaped. In anticipation of a coup, they ordered the construction of 3 separate tunnels from Siloam Palace to the wooded areas outside of the palace. At 20 o'clock, the night of the coup, only with the President Guard to defend them against mutinous infantry and armor units, Yim and Nhu hurriedly packed American banknotes in the briefcase. Yim and Nhu escaped through a tunnel from the palace with 2 loyalists, Air Force Lieutenant Do Tu and Son Vi, head of New Republican Youth. The tunnel led them to a wooded area near the Circle Sportif and left through a small gate on Lake Canton Street, where they were picked up by a waiting Land Rover. The lawyers took back streets to evade rebel checkpoints, switching to a black Chiron sedan. News suggests that he and Yim split up, believing this would increase their chances of survival. He proposed that one go to Mekong Delta to join General Cao forces, while the other headed to the highlands to join General Hein. Nhu thought that the rebels would hesitate to kill one while the other was free, but Yim rejected the idea, insisting that they stay together. Yim said,
"You cannot leave alone. They hate you too much. They will kill you. Stay with me and I will protect you. We have always been together during these last years. How could we separate in this critical hour?"
Nhu agreed to remain with his brother. They reached the house of Ma Tuin, a Chinese merchant's new contract with Chinese syndicates in Cholon, where the brothers sought asylum from the Republic of China embassy, but they were turned down, believing the brothers were still inside Siloam Palace due to a secret telephone line. As they left Ma Tuin house shortly after, during the early morning Mass for All Souls Day, the Ngo brothers entered the church in dark gray suits. After the congregation had dispersed, it is believed they were spotted by informant. As they walked through the courtyard and inside, they prayed and received communion. A few minutes later, around 10, dozens of soldiers entered inside the church, completely surrounding the area. The convoy was led by Ma Hu Xuan. Yim requested the convoy to stop at the palace to gather personal items before his exile, but Swan apparently denied the request, saying that the orders would take Yim and Nhu directly to JGS headquarters. Nhu expressed his disdain at being transported in an armored personal carrier, asking,
"You use such a vehicle to drive the president?"
Lam reassured them that the armor was for their protection, explaining that it was to safeguard them from extremists. Swan then ordered the brothers' hands to be tied behind their backs and shoved them into the carrier. After the arrest, Nung and Yi joined the brothers in the APC as the convoy headed for Tan Son Nhat. Before leaving the church, Minh was gesturing to Nung with 2 fingers, which was interpreted as an order to execute the brothers. The convoy halted at a railroad crossing on the return trip, where the brothers were reported to have been assassinated. An investigation by Don revealed that Nhi shot them at point-blank range with a semi-automatic gun, while Nung sprayed multiple rounds, then repeatedly stabbed their bodies with a knife. Nhi recounted the events during the ride back to the military headquarters.
As we travelled to the Joint General Staff, Diem sat quietly, while Nu and the Captain Nung started hurling insults at each other. I don't know who initiated it, but the name-calling escalated. The captain had always hated Nu, and now was in a fit of rage. Nung lunged at Nu with a bayonet, stabbing him repeatedly, maybe 15 or 20 times. Still enraged, he turned to Diem, drew his revolver, and shot him in the head. Then he looked back at Nu, who was lying on the floor and twitching, and shot him in the head as well. Neither Diem nor Nu fought back since their hands were tied.
The ARVN tried haphazardly to cover up this accident, claiming it was suicide. Even though the army didn't plan to execute the Diem brothers, it was seen as a happy accident. Not a single Vietnamese was saddened by their death, as he never became a martyr. Jubilee celebration rang throughout the entire country. Kennedy learned of the death of the Ngo brothers the very next morning, shocked and dismayed by the news, which contradicted his plan for Diem safe exile. General Maxwell Taylor described Kennedy's reaction as unprecedented. Kennedy expressed deep regret in a memo, calling the assassination abhorrent and blaming himself for authorizing Cable 243, which allowed the coup to proceed. I would say the event troubled Kennedy deeply. However, Kennedy had tape recorded 23 White House meetings where he and his advisors debated the pros and cons of regime change in Saigon. Officially, the US maintained a neutral stance, but insiders in Washington understood the reality. A game of cat and mouse ensued. From the highest office, hidden agendas emerged as officials obscured their true intentions without directly implicating themselves. When the topic of assassination arose, JFK was silent. The attitude was pragmatic. Let him try. If he succeeds, it will benefit the US. If he failed, the responsibility was his alone. Diem never gained full favor. Diem was only the best option on hand. JFK, however, discreetly backed General Big Minh, whose coup gained tacit approval through Cable 243, authorized by Kennedy in August. The cable instructed Ambassador Lodge to quietly inform key South Vietnamese generals that if President Diem failed to resolve the political crisis, release Buddhist prisoners, and remove the news from the scene, the US will find it impossible to continue to support. Through Cable 243 effectively encouraged a coup. It deliberately avoided addressing the possibility of assassination. Meanwhile, CIA Director John McCone instructed agents to take no positions on the possibility of assassination when dealing with the coup plotters. They were to either encourage nor oppose assassination, taking an official stance of neutrality. In general, the best line is no line. JFK had multiple opportunities to insist the safety of Diem, Nhu, and the rest of the Ngo families when Big Minh revealed his coup plans, including a plan to assassinate Nhu but not Diem himself, and when President Kennedy greenlighted Big Minh for a coup. On each occasion, JFK knew allowing the coup would lead to Diem assassinated, but he knowingly allowed this and never attempted to save the brothers. 3 weeks later, JFK will be assassinated. The likely bane was Minh. Minh was shamed by Diem and Nhu was a big reason for their death. He believed that once the brothers escaped from Siloam Palace, instead of giving up and accepting the offer of safe exile, they were doomed. After taking the palace, Minh thought the brothers would be inside and show up at the presidential home in full military dress, with a sedan and everything else. Cohen said Minh was a very proud man who felt humiliated for arriving at the palace for the moment of glory, only to find it empty. And Diem and Nhu would not have been killed if they stayed in the palace because there were too many people there. Their bodies were taken in St. Paul Hospital, only a few yards away from Satellite Pagoda, where Buddhist resistance had first lit the spark of revolt, which was ultimately to put a tragic end to President Diem Catholic authoritarianism. Thus died two most devoted sons of the Holy Mother Church, and with them the political regime they had attempted to impose for her sake upon an unwilling, non-Catholic, even non-Christian nation.